In 1917, the Russian Empire, once one of the most powerful nations on Earth, collapsed in a storm of hunger, war, and rage. The revolution that followed would not only end centuries of Tsarist rule, but also give birth to one of the most influential and controversial political movements in modern history: communism. For centuries, Russia had been ruled by the Romanov dynasty, a line of absolute monarchs who claimed divine right over their people. By the early 20th century, cracks began to show. Peasants lived in poverty, workers toiled in brutal conditions, and the promises of reform never came. When World War I erupted in 1914, Russia's suffering deepened. Millions were sent to die on the front lines, while famine and chaos spread across the homeland. By early 1917, the empire was on the brink. In February, mass protests filled the streets of Petrograd, now St. Petersburg. Workers went on strike, soldiers mutinied, and the Tsar's authority collapsed overnight. Nicholas II abdicated the throne, ending more than 300 years of Romanov rule. A provisional government took power, promising democracy, peace, and reform, but it kept Russia in the war, and life for most people only grew worse. In this moment of chaos and hope, one man saw an opportunity to reshape history: Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov, better known as Lenin. Lenin had spent years in exile for his revolutionary activities, developing his vision of a Marxist revolution led by the working class. In April 1917, with the help of the German government, he returned to Petrograd in a sealed train, determined to end the war and overthrow the provisional government. Lenin denounced the new rulers as a dictatorship of the bourgeoisie and declared that true power should belong to the Soviets, councils of workers, peasants, and soldiers. His message was simple, powerful, and impossible to ignore: peace, land, and bread. Through the summer of 1917, the Bolsheviks, Lenin's radical socialist faction, gained massive support in factories, in the army, and among the urban poor. By October, Lenin decided it was time to act. On the night of October 25th, November 7th by the modern calendar, the Bolsheviks launched an armed uprising in Petrograd. Key government buildings were seized, communication centers were taken over, and by the next day, the provisional government had fallen. The revolution was swift, almost bloodless, and it changed the course of world history. Lenin's new government, the Council of People's Commissars, immediately issued two historic decrees: one for peace, withdrawing Russia from World War I, and one for land, redistributing vast estates to the peasants. But peace brought its own turmoil. From 1918 to 1921, Russia descended into a brutal civil war between the Red Army, loyal to the Bolsheviks, and the White Forces, made up of monarchists, liberals, and foreign interventionists. The conflict devastated the country, costing millions of lives and leaving cities and farmlands in ruins. During the war, Lenin introduced war communism, nationalizing industry, requisitioning grain from peasants, and imposing strict state control. These measures kept the Red Army supplied, but caused hunger and revolt. By 1921, facing economic collapse and peasant uprisings, Lenin introduced the new economic policy, allowing limited private trade and small-scale enterprise to revive the shattered economy. When Lenin died in January 1924, at the age of 53, the Soviet Union, founded 2 years earlier in 1922, was already transforming into a new kind of empire, one built not on czars and nobles, but on ideology and central power. The Russian Revolution had promised equality, justice, and a world for the working class. But it also unleashed decades of authoritarian rule, political repression, and global tension. From the ashes of the Russian Empire rose a superpower, and a warning of how desperation, war, and idealism can reshape the destiny of nations.